Hi, and welcome to Edu 510. I'm Janice Wallace, and I'm going to be your professor in this course that you're going to be taking over the next several weeks. I've taught this course in MES before for, I think, 3 years, perhaps 4. I've kind of lost count a little bit. And what I do know after that experience is that this course provides you with a strong base for not only doing the research that you're going to be doing in your completion of this program, but also some of the courses that you'll be taking subsequent to this one, but also in your own consumption of research and understanding the nature of research and what is good research and what you might want to question a little bit in your own professional work, in your private life, in the kinds of things that we read in newspapers and in magazine articles and journals and that sort of thing. So you have a better idea of how you can interpret that kind of information. So this course is going to really provide you with a good background for being able to do that. My own background is as a professor, first of all, at the University of Western Ontario, which is now called Western, which is, strangely enough, in the eastern part of Canada, in Ontario, but nevertheless, it's in southwestern Ontario, so I guess that's where the name comes from. At any rate, that's where I did my master's, my bachelor's and my master's, and then I went to the University of Toronto to do my PhD at OISE. And then I came west after being at Western as a professor for a few years, and ended up at the University of Alberta very happily, and spent several years there as a professor in the Department of Educational Policy Studies, where I taught courses in leadership and administration and policy, with a particular emphasis on social justice and equity issues as they are implicated in educational organizations and in forms of leadership. So that's kind of how I've spent most of my time over the last several years. I've since retired. Just before retiring, for 4 years I spent time as the associate dean at the invitation of the dean at that time, Professor Fern Snart, and I spent 4 years working together with Susan Barker, who was my colleague and associate dean in undergraduate student services, working with the undergraduate program and working on providing revisions to that program, working with students, etc. So that was a very interesting part of my professional life as well. However, then I retired, and I retired in Victoria, where I happily can mostly worry about rain in the winter instead of snow and ice and very, very cold temperatures. So I'm enjoying that at this stage of my life very much. But I do miss my colleagues and my contacts in Alberta, and so teaching these courses is a way for me to maintain that contact, and I enjoy it very, very much, having an opportunity to talk to each of you and find out more about what's happening of interest and excitement in your schools, and what kinds of changes are occurring and how that's affecting our practice. So all of that makes for a very, very happy retiree, because I've had an opportunity to teach in this program for a few years, as well as some courses at the University of Victoria, both face-to-face and one online course as well. So that's all been very interesting for me. In terms of my personal life, I'm a mother. I have 2 grown children, one of whom lives in Calgary. He works for one of the oil companies in Calgary, and is a techie. He's he'd probably hate me for calling him that, but he's an IT architect, and so he does all kinds of things that I don't understand, but I find very interesting to talk to him about. He and his wife and their beautiful daughter, my granddaughter Sequoia, enjoy living in Calgary very much. I'm trying to talk them to coming to the coast, but I don't think that's going to happen. They're pretty happy there. Nevertheless, my granddaughter is attending an arts-based program in Calgary. She did during her middle school program and is now doing so in her high school program, where she is now in grade 11. I can hardly believe it. Soon to be in grade 12 and thinking about university and all those sorts of things. So, and she's had a wonderful experience in the Alberta education system. And so that, from a personal level, has been very interesting for me as well, where that connection between the personal and the professional kind of intersect. My daughter lives here in Victoria, and she and her new husband, they got married in September, both work for the government, as many people do here, and they're both involved in computers and that sort of thing as well. He works for the Justice Department, and she works for services where they service various programs and their computer needs and that sort of thing. So I'm surrounded with techies, and here I am, an arts major, so I'm not quite sure how that happened, but nevertheless, they're all happy, and so am I. In terms of the course, it will be very busy for you over the next several weeks. You're all, I think most of you at least, will be working professionals, and I know that it's a busy program and a busy life for you. So if, as you're going through the program, anything begins to kind of pile up for you and you need to talk to me, please do so sooner rather than later. I'm more than happy to talk with you, and 9.999 times we can work things out, and there are rare occasions when you need to get things, when we find it more difficult, but we can usually find some way that will accommodate any of the kinds of emergencies that sometimes happen. But hopefully they're rare, and that you're able to keep up, because it really is more difficult when you get behind with your assignments. So I would suggest that you schedule them into your calendars. That's what I've done for marking purposes, and that way we can all stay on top of what's going on in the course, and I think that'll be the most helpful way to proceed. I'm also going to be putting together a short video that will go through the web page itself, point out some things that will be important for you to pay attention to, and I hope that will be helpful to you as well. So you can watch for that on the course page, and as that comes up, you can have a look at it. It's important as well throughout the course that you keep up with your U Alberta emails. I would suggest that you check every couple of days to be sure that there hasn't been something come through. Now, I try not to be overzealous in sending out emails to people or to the group in general. However, if something comes up and it's really important for me to get in touch with you, if I know that I can get in touch with you fairly quickly, it really does make it so much more easy for all of us, and we can take care of something, or we can clarify something much more quickly and minimize any kind of frustration. In terms of getting in touch with me, because I live in Victoria and most of you will live in the Edmonton area at least, or in Edmonton itself, if you need to get in touch with me about anything, please feel free to email me. I check my emails quite frequently, so I should be able to get back in touch with you fairly quickly. If at that point we still feel that either of us feels that we need to have a further conversation, where telephone call or Skype or something like that would be more helpful, then we can certainly arrange for that. So there's always ways to be in touch, so please don't hesitate to do so. It's never an imposition. It always means that we can clarify something more quickly, and you can proceed with the course more happily and more efficiently. So that's always a good thing for all of us. Most of the units that we're going to be working on are organized around the forum groups, which, other than Module 1 has a different kind of forum, but for most of or a different kind of assignment, but for most of the modules, there will be a forum group where you will be organized into smaller groups, and those smaller groups will have a chance to talk about the readings, talk about based on a particular question you've been asked to consider in light of the readings. And here is where you can make connections between reading and theoretical knowledge and the practice that you're engaged in, or the research question that you're interested in, so that you can bring together theory and practice. But the important thing is that that connection between theory and practice occurs. It's tempting because we can get going very quickly around particular kinds of issues that happen in our schools and in our school systems. But always make sure that you're bringing together that theory and practice so that it's most helpful to you in the course. You will be assigned, as I said, to a small group so that it kind of constrains the amount of reading that you will do of other people's forum entries, and also constrains to some degree the requirements and what you may want to contribute to the group discussion. So hopefully that will be helpful to you as well. What I find is that the forum really does help everyone enhance their understanding. So you may come in your first entry, you may come in with a particular kind of understanding of reading, and then, or the readings, the main ideas of the readings, and then through the discussion, those ideas shift, change, are enhanced, are altered in some way. Elevated in some way, whatever. So that discussion is always important in that process as we learn together. I do jump into the groups from time to time. I try not to do so in a way that's going to interrupt the flow of the discussion, because I do find, as you probably do in some ways, that when teacher says something, it kind of shifts the conversation in a certain kind of way. So I try to kind of be sensitive to that, but I am very much involved because I am reading right along with you throughout the whole process. So that's part of my learning as we go through the course. It also builds community, I think, in very special kinds of ways, as you learn from one another in various school communities and that sort of thing. Sometimes we're lucky enough to have someone in the group who is from another country, another part of the world, another part of Canada or whatever, and that also is a very interesting element. But we're not always that lucky. Each unit begins with a video that I record that will pull together some of the main ideas from the readings. I will try to kind of locate those ideas that are more difficult to understand, or language that's somewhat new, that tends to be somewhat new to students, and talk about that a little bit, so that when you go into the readings, you have a bit of a background for doing so. That doesn't mean you won't have questions, because of course you will, but I hope that it will enhance the reading process for you. So I do find that often people find it more helpful to watch the video first and then go into the readings. But don't depend on just the video. It is a kind of an overview in many ways, and so the meat of the readings is something that you'll gain from doing a careful reading of what is assigned. The readings are key to building your knowledge base, and they do range in difficulty. Sometimes they can, you can feel like the person is talking, I don't know, whatever language you don't speak, and that can be a bit frustrating sometimes. And that's okay. That's just all a part of this whole process, and all of us have gone through that. So don't feel that you're unique in that way at all. And if you have any questions, of course, you're more than welcome to raise them with me, and I'm happy to discuss them with you. So welcome to the course. I look forward to sharing with you via video and various other kinds of media that we have available to us, so that we can learn together throughout the course. So welcome again to Edu 510.